What do you think? Is the hammer mightier than the saw? At least when it comes to sound levels. Take a moment and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, you ready? Here is the answer. So this little sound experiment came to mind after a pretty incredible invite, and I was actually asked to be on Ask This Old House to talk about hearing safety. Probably like many of you, I grew up watching This Old House, so getting that email felt pretty surreal. And as a longtime viewer, DIYer, and someone who literally studies sound for a living, of course I said yes. Ask This Old House wanted to tackle something a bit different this episode. Not how we build, but how we protect ourselves, specifically our ears, while doing it. The truth is, a lot of the sounds that we're exposed to, whether it's music, street noise, or lawn care, can be dangerous, even if they don't seem that loud. And unfortunately, once our hearing is damaged, there's no going back. So in our early discussions, we floated the idea of bringing some real sound demos to the episode to better demonstrate hearing safety. And at HearAdvisor and Hearing Tracker, we do that all the time using our Kemar mannequin. But there was a problem. They're in Boston, and I'm in Illinois. And Kemar is expensive, delicate, and, well, looks like a human. Cue the OCD spiral on, should I ship him? Should I try bringing Kemar as a carry-on? Should I borrow a local Kemar? Do I buy him his own plane ticket and let him fly first class? I even called TSA and Gras, the makers of Kemar, for input because I couldn't bear the idea of Kemar getting flipped repeatedly. Fortunately, a friend was willing to lend me a giant Pelican case. I packed Kemar like he was the Hope Diamond, and off we went to Boston. Now, let's pause the journey real quick. Why go through all this trouble? Well, because hearing loss is a growing epidemic. Nearly 40 million Americans have hearing loss. Globally, over 1.5 billion people are estimated to struggle with some degree of hearing loss. And depending on the age range, men are nearly twice as likely to experience hearing loss compared to women. The stats like this keep going. And we put tons of effort into hearing aids and treatment and hearing aids, but not half as much time into preventing hearing loss in the first place. And the good news is prevention is possible in many cases. And for most of us, it's as simple as a volume check. But this begs the question, what are safe and unsafe sound levels? Now, normal conversation is around 60 decibels, which we can listen to indefinitely. If we go higher to around 85 decibels, well, that's what's known as the danger zone for an 8-hour workday. If we bump that up to 120, 130 decibels, say the volume of a loud rock concert, that's the threshold of pain. And even brief exposure can cause instant, permanent hearing loss. So honestly, there's really no reason to be exposed to sounds that loud without protection. So between the danger zone and the threshold of pain, where again, we shouldn't be, sounds become increasingly hazardous as the intensity or loudness increases. This is also known as a time intensity trade-off. And this is why we need tools like hearing protection, because we don't always have control over the volume in our environments. Let me put it another way, and for illustrative purposes, let's go for a short walk. Think about sun exposure. If I'm outside shooting a video on a sunny day like this, for just a few minutes, I don't need to worry about sunscreen as the risk of skin damage is low. However, if I'm at the beach or mowing the lawn all afternoon, I definitely should put on sunblock. Now, we've all had sunburn and that red irritated skin, and fortunately, one bad burn doesn't mean we have skin cancer. However, we do know that repeated exposures like that, even mild ones, add up over time, increasing our long-term risk. Believe it or not, sound works similarly. A single loud concert won't leave you with moderate hearing loss, but you likely have sustained some level of injury. And just like sunburns, those small injuries can add up over time, leading to sound-induced hearing disorders like, say, hearing loss, tinnitus, or others. Fortunately, it takes just a few minutes to put on sunscreen and honestly, even less time to put in a pair of earplugs. All right, so let's bring this back to our main story and Kemar. Now, I had never been to Boston before, and to my embarrassment, much of my knowledge of Boston comes from watching Liar Liar as a kid. And I guess like Max, I never made it to Fenway Park for hiking or fishing. On this trip, there was only one goal, and that was to get Kemar there in one piece. And after arriving, I was really keen to check how he had fared on the flight. All right, so I have admittedly been very worried about traveling with Kemar as a checked mannequin, but I'm happy to say it looks like he's fine. I didn't completely unpackage him because then I'll have to package him again for tomorrow, but I at least didn't see just shards of ex-Kemar floating around in the box, which is kind of what my imagination ran with. So we made it. Now, it was great to see that Kemar made it there in one piece, and the morning of the shoot, I was super excited to see their setup and the behind-the-scenes magic. I'm also a gearhead, and family and friends know very well that I suffer deeply from gas. I mean, gear acquisition syndrome. But around this time, things really started to speed up, so I began unboxing Kemar. I plug him in, I've run all the cables, I set up the preamps, start testing, check, 1, 2, and nothing. Kemar just wouldn't work. After all of the emails, the packing, the airport nerves, and setup, Kemar was unfortunately having an off day and wasn't cooperating with the studio gear. But hey, that's life. We were fortunately still able to record what is hopefully a great segment for them, and for what it's worth, I am sorry that we weren't able to include Kemar. I don't know when exactly this episode will be published, but I'll add it to the video description when it's live. I would like to extend a big thank you to Kevin, Sarah, Michaela, Jim, and everyone else on the team. They were all very welcoming and made the trek to Boston for me one to remember. I'd also like to thank them for addressing hearing health and ear protection. Sound-induced hearing disorders are more than needing to turn the TV up. And more often than not, it's not only the obvious loud sounds, but the more trivial seeming ones repeated over and over that are damaging. So yeah, sometimes the hammer really is mightier than the saw. With that said, protect your hearing and look out for your future self. Thanks again to Ask This Old House and to all of you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.